Welcome back to Sissy Maya. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an update. Additionally, consider subscribing to my Patreon to get access to these features, and much more. I was just a financially struggling freshman attending a prestigious university. Initially, I had concerns about fitting in because it was out of state and I didn't know anyone. During high school, I earned a reputation as a bit of a bad boy that each girl felt compelled to date at least once. Looking back, I now realize that I played a stereotypical tough guy role from a cheesy 50s movie, but I thought I was the coolest guy around. Although some girls treated me horribly, many were drawn to me, even understanding that I often viewed them as foolish. I only lasted a few months in college before I took a classmate on a date and fell back into my role as a macho stud. However, this girl didn't respond well to my act and ended the night by abruptly exiting the car without a goodbye or any affection. Every so often, I would visit various college offices and offend the secretaries with my aggressive demeanor. Sometimes, I would even attempt to use my charm to ask these women out on dates, leading to a few experiences with multiple girls over brief periods. One day, I received a letter concerning sexual harassment allegations and ignored it at first. However, when threats of expulsion surfaced, I finally paid close attention. Consequently, I found out that I had received several complaints from the secretaries I had interacted with, totaling 15 separate cases over 3 months. These filings led to multiple dismissal warnings, all disregarded by me, until I was summoned to a formal hearing for expulsion. This judgment required me to attend accompanied by my parents and, if desired, a legal representative. My parents worried about the situation, employing a family friend attorney to help. During one cold fall morning, numerous accusations were detailed with my parents, attorney, and a panel of stern deans present. Thankfully, after a break, the deans gave me a second chance. I could stay in college if I adhered to specific conditions, part of the school's policy. My family was thrilled with the news, but the attorney cautioned them that everything depended on my approval. If I agreed, I would face a harsh punishment, but at least I could complete my education. If I didn't agree, expulsion was inevitable, and no other college would likely accept me. Okay, I said, trying to sound brave. I'll take my punishment like a man. What is it? This is not something to be taken lightly, Rick, the attorney warned. Your punishment will be severe, but it will be appropriate. So, what's the worst they can make me do? A public apology? I can handle that, I exclaimed. No, Rick, the worst they can do is punishment in kind, he said slowly. A punishment that will teach you a lesson about how women are to be treated. One of those sensitivity workshops, I groaned. How pathetic. The attorney became annoyed and asked the deans if we could discuss things privately. Once they left the room, he dropped a bombshell. Your punishment, Rick, is to learn how to treat women by attending college as a woman, he said slowly. What did you say? My mother asked, shaking her head. How is he to learn this again? My father asked. Are they serious? I asked. They're serious, their friend advised. It's a last resort punishment, but it's been used successfully in the past. The school will allow Rick to remain as a student with his full scholarship, provided he meets that condition. They're nuts, I exclaimed. They can't make me do that, we'll sue. They're not nuts, and if you agree, it's all perfectly legal, I was told. You mean that you want me to agree to have some butcher chop me up so I'll never be the same again? I retorted. No, I won't do it, I shouted. This program, my father asked, what exactly would it do to Rick? Would he be a girl the rest of his life? As you're aware, this school is part of a large teaching hospital, we were told. The program we're talking about was designed for men who wanted to become women. It allows them to experience life as women before anything irreversible is done. So nothing is changed then? My mother asked, confused. He'd still look like a boy, their friend continued. No, actually quite a bit is changed. He'd look like any other woman his age, but it can all be undone when he graduates. And all I have to agree to is to have some butcher chop me up so I'll never be the same again, I retorted. No, I won't do it, I shouted. Please, anything but this, I pleaded. This program, my father asked, what exactly would it do to Rick? Would he be a girl the rest of his life? Frankly, Rick, you'll have breasts, wide hips, and a woman's shape. You'll look like a woman, you'll sound like a woman, and for the next 4 years, you'd live completely as a woman. My parents huddled together for several minutes before my dad finally spoke up. All reversible, and he keeps his scholarship? He asked. Absolutely reversible, and he keeps his scholarship, their friend assured him. No one would ever find out, my mother asked. The records are changed to indicate that a male attended and graduated from the university, I was told. I saw my parents nodding to each other. No, I screamed. I won't do it. Where else can you go, Rick? My mother asked. Colleges weren't exactly beating our door down. You never had good enough grades to interest anyone else. He'll do it, my father said quietly. When does it all start? I asked, feeling like I was listening to my own death sentence being read. You can't do this to me, I shouted. Please, anything but this. The deans returned to the room and asked if we had reached a decision. My father spoke up, Rick will accept the punishment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. No, I won't, I protested. The deans looked at me sternly. This is your only option, Rick. If you don't agree, you will be expelled immediately. Tears filled my eyes as I realized I had no choice. Fine, I muttered. I'll do it. The deans nodded and handed me a stack of papers to sign. I scribbled my name on each page, feeling like I was signing my life away. As I left the room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread wash over me. I had no idea what the next 4 years would hold, but I knew one thing for sure, my life would never be the same. I was in shock as I listened to the dean's instructions. I couldn't believe what was happening. My parents sat silently next to me, their faces expressionless. I felt a lump form in my throat as I realized the gravity of the situation. What about my classes, my professors, my friends? I asked, my voice shaking. All of your classes and professors will be notified of the change, the dean replied. As for your friends, that is up to you to handle. You will be given a new name, new identity, and new life. It is up to you to make the most of it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was being forced to live as a woman for the next 4 years. I felt a wave of panic wash over me. Can I at least talk to my professors, my friends, my coaches? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. No, Rick, the attorney interjected. The school has made its decision, and it is final. You will not be allowed to contact anyone from your previous life until the program is complete. I felt my world crumbling around me. I had never felt so alone and scared in my entire life. Come with me, Rick, the dean said, standing up from her chair. We have a lot of work to do to get you ready for your new life. I stood up, my legs shaking, and followed the dean out of the room. I could feel my parents' eyes on me as I left, but I couldn't bring myself to look back. I was walking into a new world, a world that I never thought I would be a part of. As I walked down the hallway, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread wash over me. I had no idea what the next 4 years would hold, but I knew one thing for sure, my life would never be the same. Before leaving, the school efficiently handed me a clothing check and wished me luck. The dean expressed anticipation for my return and hoped for the best. Time flew, and soon I found myself back at the school, luggage bursting with dresses, skirts, tops, pants, and lingerie. The only male attire I possessed was what adorned my frame. I was greeted by Candace, a charming young woman assigned to assist me until my reintegration into school life. Caught in a momentary trance, I realized my gaze had fixated on her chest. Candace's gentle smile broke the awkward silence as she reassured me, "Don't fret, you'll have your own soon." Flustered, I stammered a denial, fearing misunderstanding. I was just curious why they'd assign a female aide. Isn't it risky? Relax, she replied, flashing a grin. Call me Nonny. I'm pursuing my master's in sociology, specializing in transsexualism. Interning at the school's clinic. And as for your ogling, get it out now. Soon, you'll be on the other end. No risks here, you won't be ravishing anyone for at least 4 years. Did you really have to bring that up? I protested. This whole transformation, it's unsettling. Don't let it trouble you, Nonny reassured. You'll resemble a woman, but just for 4 years. Besides, it was your choice. Choice, I scoffed bitterly. What a selection, be a failure or become a woman. Moments later, we arrived at the apartment where I would reside during my training. She waited patiently until I reached her side of the car and opened the door for her. Consider that your first lesson, she said warmly as she stepped out. Expect a gentlemanly gesture from a guy and accept nothing less. I'll try to keep that in mind, I chuckled, hoisting my luggage from the trunk. Though I doubt I'll find myself in a car with another guy anytime soon. Candace scrutinized me for a moment before circling around me slowly. You're going to turn heads as a woman, the kind that men will line up to date. Date me, with other men? I exclaimed incredulously. Yes, date you, and plenty of them, Nonny laughed. You'll see. After showing me around the apartment, Nonny instructed me to leave my suitcases in the bedroom while we discussed my future. Once again, the school had meticulously planned out the major changes ahead. First on the agenda, hairstyling and electrolysis to remove facial and chest hair. Then, I'd dive into lessons on makeup, fashion, and hairstyling, followed by voice training using a special throat spray to alter my pitch. After an estimated 2 months, I'd be ready for breast implants, followed by the final series of operations to reshape my genitals to appear female. Are you sure this is reversible? I asked, my voice trembling. They're not actually going to remove anything, are they? Nonny squeezed my hand reassuringly. The only permanent change will be the loss of facial and chest hair. Other than that, you can revert to being a guy whenever you want after your 4 years are up. It'll be the very next day, I declared firmly. The night before, if I could manage it. Let's see how you feel 4 years from now, Nonny said, meeting my gaze. Some have chosen to make it permanent. I won't be one of them, I promise, I insisted. The thought of living the rest of my life as a woman was inconceivable to me. All right, so that's the schedule for the major tasks. In the meantime, I'll be coaching you on how to dress and carry yourself like a woman. First up, you'll need to take a hot bath and decide whether you want to use hair removal cream or a razor for your legs and underarms, Nonny explained matter-of-factly. Actually, my mom took care of all that last week, I muttered. What's next? Getting dressed, Nonny replied casually, as if it were a minor detail. We'll pick out an outfit for you, and I'll dispose of what you're wearing now. From here on out, it's nothing but women's clothes. Following her back to the bedroom, I attempted to reach the case containing my lingerie before her, but I was too slow. I stood there, feeling embarrassed as she extracted various items of nylon, satin, and lace from the suitcase. She chose a matching pink satin bra, panty, and half-slip, along with a pair of tan pantyhose and the breast forms included on my list. Your mom has good taste, she commented as she worked. Quality clothes, pretty colors, and a nice variety of styles. They're yours for the taking, Nonny, I joked, trying to lighten the mood. Thanks, she grinned. I have plenty, and you'll need these. As I unpacked the rest of my belongings, Nonny halted me when I reached for a denim dress. That'll do for now, she said, taking the dress from me. No need for anything fancy right away. Could I at least wear a pair of jeans? I asked anxiously. Sorry, but until your final operation, no slacks. You know, the telltale bulges, she explained. How foolish of me to forget. I sighed. Don't worry, in a few months, you'll rock a pair of tight jeans, she reassured. Thanks, I replied, a tinge of sadness in my tone. I can wait. Speaking of waiting, Nonny chimed cheerfully. I'll be in the other room while you get changed. If you need any help, just call me. I should be fine. Mom gave me a crash course on wearing these things, I reassured her. Good old Mom. Thinks of everything, she called back as she exited. You're lucky. Things will be much smoother for you then. As I began to slip on the panties, it dawned on me that she had referred to me as a girl. Here I was, an average 18-year-old guy about to undergo a transformation, powerless to stop it. Trapped, I thought to myself. They could do anything they wanted to me once I was on that operating table. I might wake up with breasts the size of watermelons. Mom's coaching came in handy as I finished dressing, hooking my bra just as she had shown me and sliding the breast forms into place, a perfect fit. I let out a deep sigh as I pulled on the dress, wondering if dresses would be my new norm. Gathering up my old clothes, I approached Nonny, noticing the peculiar sensation as my dress and slip brushed against my nylon-clad legs. Here you go, I said, handing her the remnants of my male existence. What's next? Take a seat, she instructed, patting the spot beside her. We need to choose a name for you. Nonny presented me with a small pink paperback titled Names for Your New Daughter, a common sight at supermarket checkout counters. I'm thinking something simple yet pretty, she mused, flipping through the pages. What do you think of Lisa? I never really considered it, I admitted, smoothing out my skirt and settling into the seat. Nice touch, she remarked, nodding towards my skirt. Thanks to Mom again. I nodded, and she smiled, patting my knee. Cross your legs. Ladies don't sit with their legs spread like that. I attempted to comply, but crossing my legs proved more challenging than expected, causing considerable discomfort. That'll get easier later, she assured me. How about Griffith? Cute, I replied, but it just doesn't feel like me. Cheryl? No, definitely not a Cheryl. Sandra? Come on, Nonny, it's the 90s. Nobody's named Sandra anymore. What about Rosie? I pondered over it for a moment. Rose is nice, I agreed. How about Rosie Ann? Rosie any? Nonny suggested. With Rosie for short. Like Virginia? I deadpanned. You know, virgin for short, but not for long. How long you stay a virgin is up to you, Nonny chuckled. Hold on a minute, I exclaimed. What's this about being a virgin? I'm not interested in that stuff. There's nothing gay about it, Nonny clarified. As a woman, you'll have the option to have sex if you choose. Remember when they said you'd experience life as a woman? Well, dear heart, sex can be part of that experience if you want. No, I asserted firmly. I won't date, and I'll never sleep with another guy. Your call, Nonny shrugged. Just wanted to let you know it's an option. Let's refocus on my new name, shall we? I redirected the conversation. Rosie Annie Griffith Green, that's your new name. I could do worse, I conceded, resigning myself to my new identity. Sure could, like Virginia, for example. We shared a chuckle over that, then Nonny handed me some official-looking papers to sign. The first was a petition to the court for my legal name change. My family and I had decided on Green, my paternal grandmother's maiden name, to maintain anonymity, so I printed Rosie Annie Griffith Green in the designated space and signed it accordingly at the bottom. Next up was a document to obtain a new birth certificate, necessary to reflect my new name and female gender marker. Afterward, I signed as Rick on a statement from the clinic administrator, confirming my enrollment in the sexual reassignment program and the need for documentation to affirm my female identity for testing purposes. What's the testing about? I inquired. That's where the person undergoing gender reassignment lives and works as the gender they identify with, to test if they can adapt. All official documents reflect their desired gender to facilitate acceptance. Once we receive all the paperwork, we'll get you dolled up and snap a new picture for your license. Then you'll be all set. Before the operation, I clarified. About 3 weeks prior, then you can start working and driving. A job. What kind of job can I get pretending to be a girl? Stop saying pretending, Rosie, Nonny scolded. You're not pretending anymore. From now on, you are a girl. I just hadn't considered working like this, I muttered. If you get a waitress job at one of the local bars, you'll need to be cautious, Nonny cautioned. Some college guys think they can do whatever they want to a woman. Their hands tend to wander. Unbelievable, I thought. Not only would I have to find a job as a woman, but I might also have to fend off unwanted advances from guys. What else could possibly go wrong? Nonny answered that for me by insisting we go get my hair done. I can't go out looking like this. Everyone will know I'm a guy, I protested. The salon is accustomed to transforming guys into pretty ladies. It's what they do, Nonny assured me. Sensing my hesitation, she retrieved a pair of black flats from my room and had me slip them on. Don't worry, she grinned. You'll be strutting in heels soon enough. Flats just suit your dress better for now. I had always admired how girls looked in heels. Something about their stride drove me wild. Now, it seemed, I'd soon be turning heads myself. Downstairs in the salon, I was ushered into a styling chair, draped with a plastic cape, and had my hair washed. While one stylist worked on my hair, another tended to my nails with a manicure. Once my hair was set in rollers, I was ushered to another section of the salon where a needle was pressed against my hair follicles, sending an electric jolt through them. Ouch! I cried out in pain. That stings. Is this some kind of medieval torture chamber? Just removing facial hair, dear. Sit still so I don't jab you in the wrong spot, the technician instructed. After 3.5 hours of enduring the discomfort, my face was sore and red, my fingernails painted in a bright shade of red, and my brown hair transformed into shorter, curly locks with streaks of blonde throughout. That should suffice for now, Nonny declared. Next up, a visit to the doctor's office. Off we went to another section of the building, Nonny striding confidently ahead while I trailed behind, feeling like an unattractive woman with a severe sunburn on her face. The doctor had me change into a robe and conducted a thorough examination. Trust me, thorough doesn't even begin to describe it. He left no stone unturned. When I mentioned the discomfort of being in stirrups for the genital examination, Nonny let out a laugh. Now you understand the inconvenience of these exams for women. After the exam, the doctor met with Nonny and me in his office. While he primarily addressed Nonny, who represented the program, I occasionally found myself included in the conversation. Essentially, he saw no issues with the surgery to conceal my genitals, noting ample space for reconstruction to create female genitalia. Reviewing his notes, he suggested I was an almost ideal candidate for breast implants, recommending a size 36B for my age. While he seemed to anticipate my excitement over the prospect, I couldn't muster up the enthusiasm. Somehow, the idea of having breasts failed to thrill me. The doctor wrote out several prescriptions for me, one to soothe the burning sensation on my face, another aimed at suppressing my body's production of male hormones, and a small dosage of female hormones just to ensure everything went smoothly. Aside from the examination, I didn't feel there was much reason for me to be there. Nonny accepted the prescriptions, agreed on the size of my future breasts, and scheduled a follow-up appointment for the end of the next week. The only acknowledgement I received was a bottle of liquid to gargle with daily, promising a more feminine voice. Before I could redress, I was given a shot in the butt to kickstart my journey into womanhood. Nonny wasted no time in getting the prescriptions filled, and I started on them that very afternoon over dinner. She beamed as I swallowed the pills, which the doctor assured would chemically alter me, temporarily transitioning me into a woman. I suppose I anticipated some dramatic transformation upon ingestion, and my expression must have given me away. The changes will be rather subtle, Nonny explained with a smile. No sudden urge to go shopping or anything like that. But over time, you'll become less aggressive, more feminine. As I tried to wrap my head around what she meant by more feminine, she added, the desire to shop comes later, along with the desire to have children. At first, I wasn't paying close attention, but her words suddenly registered. Children, I exclaimed. Just kidding, Rosie, she laughed. But you'll need to pay attention. This is all essential knowledge for you. We shared a laugh, and after dinner, Nonny insisted on coaching me on my walk and posture. We spent the rest of the evening refining my movements to emulate those of a woman. It was a challenging endeavor for me, as it meant unlearning habits I had taken for granted over the years. Women didn't stand, sit, walk, or gesture like men, and neither would I. The nail extensions glued onto my fingertips earlier only added to the difficulty. I had never considered the challenges women faced with long nails. I had always found them alluring. By the time Nonny left that night, I was utterly exhausted. She had me practicing picking up, carrying, and holding things as a woman would, leaving me in need of some serious rest. Once the grueling session of high-heel walking lessons finally came to an end, I was on the verge of breaking a leg. After hours of instruction, Nonny reluctantly allowed me to retire for the night, reminding me that I had many more hours of training ahead. Later, as I showered, I ran my hands over my smoothly shaven legs, pondering how I would look once all the changes had taken effect. Nonny tried to reassure me, insisting that I would make an attractive woman, hoping to lift my spirits. Little did she know, being an attractive woman was the last thing I desired out of life, especially for the next 4 years. Oh, how I longed to flee the school, to run back home to my parents and beg for forgiveness. I would do anything they asked, anything to avoid being turned into a woman. But deep down, I knew my pleas would fall on deaf ears. Dad had made it clear that I was getting what I deserved, and Mom was eagerly anticipating having a daughter, even if only temporarily. I had been foolish, arrogant, downright foolish. But did I deserve this? As I slipped into a pair of panties and a nightgown, I couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. I glanced at the hot curlers Mom had bought for me, recalling how Nonny had praised her thoughtfulness. If it were up to Nonny, she claimed, I'd be experiencing the joys of trying to sleep with a head full of curlers. Thankfully, she was supposed to be my friend, I mused as I drifted off to sleep. I shuddered to think what might happen if she weren't. I endured a restless night's sleep, my butt sore from the shot, my face tender from the electrolysis, and Nonny's jest about wanting children haunting my thoughts. I awoke several hours early, heart pounding, after dreaming of marrying a man who bore a striking resemblance to the clinic doctor. Clad in a long white gown, clutching a bouquet, I marched down the aisle of a packed church, peering through a lace veil. A part of me yearned to flee, but I found myself inexorably drawn closer to the altar. Standing before it, I listened as the priest inquired, "Who gives this woman?" My horror peaked as my father proudly presented me to the doctor. When prompted to answer, my voice failed me, and I could only utter, "I do." My new husband lifted my veil, drawing me close, showering me with compliments and affection. As night fell, his praises ignited a fiery desire within me, culminating in a fervent plea for lovemaking and fantasies of bearing his children. Just as our union was about to be consummated, I awoke, trembling with anxiety. It took nearly an hour to compose myself and return to slumber, mercifully devoid of the dream's recurrence. The following morning, Nonny arrived at my door bright and early for another grueling day of training. Despite my attempts to brush it off, I found myself blurting out every detail of my unsettling dream. Nonny listened with a smirk, teasing, "Sounds like you've got a crush on the doctor, Rosie." Her jest stung, and I snapped back, "Thanks for your sympathy. Can't you see I'm upset? This is ridiculous. Why can't I just apologize and move on with my life?" "Because you wouldn't learn a thing," Nonny retorted sharply. "You'd apologize just to avoid consequences, without truly understanding. You need to experience firsthand what it's like to be objectified by some clueless man who thinks he's God's gift to women." I considered lashing out at Nonny, but the fear of her retaliation silenced me. With a heavy heart, I swallowed my pride and kept my grievances to myself. The ensuing days were a relentless onslaught of makeup tutorials, fashion critiques, etiquette lessons, and countless other tasks as Nonny drilled me relentlessly, determined to mold me into a convincing woman. Nonny firmly believed in learning through practical experience, so I spent countless hours trying on various types of clothing, from miniskirts to evening gowns. Adjusting to sitting perfectly straight in a miniskirt was a challenge in itself, but it was nothing compared to the struggle of holding my breath while Nonny zipped up an evening gown so snugly that I felt as if I were being squeezed by a vice. "Having trouble catching your breath, Rosie?" she teased, grinning mischievously. "Just relax," she reassured me. "You'll get used to it soon enough. This is just a taste of what women endure to wear these outfits that men love to see us in." Surprisingly, Nonny was right. After a few moments, I acclimated to the constriction of the gown and ceased gasping for air. But just when I thought I had adapted, Nonny insisted I attempt sitting down. What initially seemed like a relief quickly transformed into a conundrum as I struggled to figure out how to bend and sit while confined in the tight gown and the girdle required to shape my figure. Despite my efforts, I couldn't manage to sit comfortably. Nonny watched and chuckled as I contorted myself in every conceivable manner. "Keep your upper body straight, Rosie," she coached. "Now bend your knees slightly and push your butt out as you sit." With her guidance, it took nearly an hour before I could finally navigate across the room and sit down in a straight-backed chair without difficulty. Mastering the art of sitting on a soft chair or couch proved to be an even greater challenge. Once satisfied with my sitting skills, Nonny had me slip into a pair of high heels and practice walking and sitting all over again. I couldn't fathom why she insisted on heels until I stood up and nearly twisted my ankle. "How am I supposed to balance on these tiny points you call heels?" I grumbled, noting the narrow soles of the shoes. "Women do it all the time," was Nonny's standard response. With her support, I managed to take a few tentative steps across the room, teetering precariously the moment she released me. Undeterred, Nonny urged me onward, cheering when I finally took a few steps unaided. "Go girl," she exclaimed from the couch, encouraging me to relax and let my hips sway naturally. Despite feeling self-conscious at first, between the girdle and the dress, there was no avoiding the movement. "Well done, Rosie," Nonny praised, handing me a small clutch purse that complemented my gown. "Now hold this in one hand and let your other arm sway as you walk." I followed her instructions, clutching the purse in my right hand, mimicking the graceful stride of the women I'd observed. Holding my left hand in a limp-wristed manner, I exaggerated my walk with a hint of sass. "How's this?" I quipped, accompanied by a playful grin. "Sexy enough." "If you're aiming to be a streetwalker," Nonny retorted sharply. "Knock it off, Rosie. You're a lady, not someone out to solicit attention." "Hey, I was just kidding around," I replied, trying to diffuse the tension. "No need to get all worked up about it." "It's not a joke," she shot back, her tone firm. "When a woman dresses in a way that's even slightly provocative, men assume she's available. They can't grasp that sometimes women dress for themselves, to feel confident and attractive. It's a part of being a woman, and you'll understand that soon enough." "I highly doubt it," I replied confidently. "You can dress me up, make me act the part, but you can't make me think like a woman. It's just not possible." "You're right," Nonny conceded with a shrug, though a knowing smirk played on her lips. "That could never happen." "See," I said, feeling a sense of triumph. "Even stubborn guys like me can be right sometimes." "Sure," Nonny agreed, hiding her amusement. "You won't be the first man I've worked with who suddenly decides he wants to be a hot, sexy lady," she thought to herself. Despite my resistance, Nonny was relentless in my training. Day after day, I immersed myself in learning how to dress, walk, move, and behave like a lady. I absorbed more about fashion and makeup in a week than I had ever imagined, but Nonny's expectations were insatiable. At the end of the week, she dropped the bombshell that we'd be venturing out for a shopping trip over the weekend to acclimate me to public appearances. "Can't we just grab burgers and fries at a drive-thru?" I pleaded, feeling a surge of panic. "I can't handle pretending to be a girl in front of a crowd." "I've told you before, Rosie," Nonny replied impatiently. "You're not pretending. As far as you're concerned, you are a girl. You've mastered the skills, and now it's time to put them to use." "Please, Nonny, not now," I implored, feeling unprepared for the prospect of facing the public eye. "I'm not ready for this yet. You've got a fabulous new hairstyle, your makeup is flawless, and you look stunning in your outfits," she insisted. "Trust me, you're ready." There was no arguing with Nonny, as I'd quickly learned. So we spent the remainder of the day selecting outfits for the weekend excursion and discussing our plans. Despite the warm weather forecast, Nonny suggested a light pink cotton top, a short white denim skirt, and a pair of modest heels. We'd hit a couple of malls, enjoy meals at nice restaurants, and catch a movie. If it weren't for the fact that I'd be experiencing it all as Rosie Annie, I might have looked forward to it. The night before our big outing was restless, to say the least. Tangled in my curlers and tangled in my thoughts, I tossed and turned, unable to find any peace. Nonny was undeniably attractive and fun, the kind of girl any guy would love to date. But the thought of being her girlfriend sent shivers down my spine. Sleep eluded me, and I spent the entire night in a state of anxious anticipation. Morning brought no relief. Dragging myself to the shower, I cranked the water to its highest pressure, hoping to jolt myself awake. But as the water cascaded over me, I felt an unfamiliar sensation, a sharp pain in my chest. It took me a moment to realize it was my breasts, sensitive from the hormones I'd been taking. The doctor had warned me about this, but experiencing it firsthand was a whole different story. Gingerly adjusting the shower head, I tried to avoid the tender area. Once out of the shower, I carefully shaved my legs, though I hadn't noticed any stubble since using the hair removal cream a couple of days ago. Still, I didn't want to take any chances, especially with my dress being on the shorter side. As I dried off, I opted for a pair of maroon panties, a departure from my usual white. It felt silly, thinking that the color of my underwear could make me feel more like a girl, but I clung to any semblance of femininity I could find. Slipping into my bra and adding the breast forms, I couldn't help but gaze at my reflection in the mirror. What would it be like to have real breasts? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. And then there was the looming final operation. Nonna's hints about wearing tight jeans and bikinis filled me with a mixture of dread and disbelief. Was she serious? Could I really pull off such a drastic transformation? The image of myself lounging on a beach in a bikini, my breasts drawing the attention of every man within miles, sent a chill down my spine. It was a scenario I couldn't quite wrap my head around, a future I wasn't sure I was ready to embrace. But with each passing day, it seemed I was being swept further into a reality I couldn't control. And as much as I wanted to resist, a part of me couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead. The thought of strutting around in a bikini was a nightmare I was determined to avoid. Beaches and skimpy swimwear were the furthest things from my mind. Nonna's assurances that I might one day feel proud of my appearance in a low-cut dress or bikini only fueled my anxiety. None of the guys in the program had regretted it, she claimed, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to me like a shadow. But for now, I had more immediate concerns. As I finished zipping up my skirt, I focused on the task at hand, surviving a weekend of shopping as a woman. Carefully applying my makeup and styling my hair, I hoped to blend seamlessly into the crowd. But despite a week of practice, the prospect of facing the scrutiny of store clerks and fellow shoppers sent a shiver down my spine. Would I be able to pass as just another woman, or would my disguise crumble under closer inspection? Nonny arrived, conducting a thorough inspection and offering a few final adjustments. With what looked like curved tweezers, she meticulously tended to my eyelashes, enhancing their natural beauty. Her words about my potential as a woman offered a glimmer of reassurance, but I couldn't shake the underlying unease. "You're going to become a beautiful woman," Nonny assured me, her tone gentle but firm. "The doctor can only do so much with what's already there. Your body will develop in its own time, and the hormones will help speed up the process." But her casual dismissal of my concerns about my future anatomy struck a nerve. "Having all the necessary equipment to shower at the YWCA isn't exactly what I had in mind," I retorted, my frustration bubbling to the surface. Nonna's laughter filled the room, a buoyant counterpoint to my apprehension. "You were born that way, remember," she teased. But don't worry, Rosie. Great women are made, not born. Her words, though meant to comfort, only served to deepen my uncertainty. As we prepared to face the day ahead, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of woman I would become and whether I would recognize myself in the mirror when all was said and done. I suppose it could have been worse, I replied dourly. I'm just a little surprised at what you picked out for me to wear. Nonny dried her tears with a tissue, her frustration palpable. What did you expect, an evening gown? You're supposed to fit in as a girl so you can get used to it. You're wearing what a lot of girls your age wear on a weekend, she explained, her tone tinged with exasperation. Sorry, I muttered, feeling a pang of guilt. I guess I'm just sort of expecting the worst. You're pretty scared, aren't you? Nonna's concern cut through the tension in the car. Terrified, I admitted, my voice shaky. I wish I would have gone home instead of agreeing to this. I'm so scared I don't know what to do. Just do as I say, Nonny reassured me, her voice softening. I promise I'll take good care of you. You're only supposed to get an understanding of what it's like to be a woman. No one wants to see anything happen to you. I hope you're right, I said, wiping away a tear. You can trust me, Rosie, Nonny said gently, drying my tears. Now let's touch up your makeup and get started. As we drove to the mall, Nonny kept up a steady stream of conversation, distracting me from my mounting anxiety. But as we arrived at our destination, the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Suddenly, though, I realized what had happened, but Nonny had already shut off the engine and was getting out of the car. Come on, Rosie, she called happily. Can't stay in there forever. I can try. I called back weakly. No, you can't. Nonny laughed, pulling me out of the car. Let's go before people start looking at us. That phrase became Nonna's magic spell, pushing me to do whatever she wanted with the fear of attracting attention. Meekly, I followed her into the mall, attempting to blend into the background as we made our way to the women's section of a department store. Nonny wasted no time in diving into racks of clothing, her expert eye scanning for the perfect outfits. Despite my discomfort, she managed to coax me into trying on various dresses, skirts, and tops, guiding me through the process with patience and encouragement. Before I knew it, I found myself standing in front of a dressing room mirror, clad in outfits I never thought I'd wear, but somehow, with Nonna's guidance, I began to see a glimpse of the woman I was supposed to become. I wanted to tell Nonny how mad I was that she had tricked me like that, but she had made a clean getaway to the opposite side of the department, where she stood with a big grin on her face. I knew I was going to have to get used to this sort of thing sooner or later. It was just that I was hoping for later. Promising myself that I'd pay Nonny back somehow, I took my clothes, found an empty room, and began to get changed. I needed all the courage I could muster to leave the dressing room and model the outfits for Nonny, but somehow I managed to walk out into the store wearing a dark red velvet dress. The dress was very soft and seemed to fit me like a glove, ending just a few inches above my knee. It hugged my bust line gently before flowing softly to my knees. As I stared at myself in the mirror, I found myself gently turning from side to side, the way I'd seen other women do as they modeled an outfit. Nonna's training of the past week was paying off. I looked at the way I looked and immediately knew that although the dress was a good fit, I'd need dark stockings, high heels, perhaps a gold necklace, or better yet pearls to make it look just right. Rosie, you are one hot lady, whispered Nonny as she approached. That dress is really you. You might be right, I answered without thinking, smoothing out the dress with my hands. Dark stockings, some heels, and the right accessories. Wait a minute, I exclaimed as I realized what I was doing. I shouldn't be thinking like this. Relax and go with your feelings, Rosie, urged Nonny. You're hot, and you know it. Nonny had called it right, and I knew it. It was ridiculous for me to be thinking about what accessories I could wear to really jazz up an outfit, but I couldn't help it. Nonny had spent the last week teaching me how to be a girl, even to the point of guy versus girl thinking, and I just guess I'd learned my lessons a whole lot better than I realized. She taught me how to dress, fix my hair, do my makeup, walk, sit, stand, talk,
and apparently how to think like a girl. I thought I was going through the motions of learning these things, and it was a shock to realize how well my lessons had stuck. Somehow, I just knew what to wear with this dress to make it really special, and if knowing wasn't bad enough, I wanted to make it look special, and I wanted it to look that way on me. That's what scares me to death, Nonny, I confided anxiously. Is it possible I always felt this way and didn't know it? Maybe, she answered with that smile that could melt the polar ice caps. Taking a quick look around to make certain that no one was close enough to hear, she continued. But I'd bet on the hormones you're taking making you more susceptible to thinking this way. Your body's not the only thing that's going to be changing, you know. You're going to find yourself thinking more like a woman too. Thinking like a woman, I whispered in a panic-stricken voice. What happens when this is all through? Will I still think this way? Only if you're lucky, Nonny replied. If more men thought that way, they'd be a lot easier to get along with. Of course, guys don't need to know how to coordinate their eyeshadow with their lipstick. All they need to know is that women do not appreciate being treated as bimbos. We appreciate a guy who treats us nicely and wants to get to know us. And if they don't, you'll turn them into women, right? I regretted it as soon as I said it. Nonny stared at me for what seemed like hours before she replied. If it were up to me, I'd just throw your sorry but out of the college, she hissed. Remember, this was your choice. You could have taken the macho way out and left, but you decided you'd rather spend 4 years of your life as a woman. Now you're even complaining about that. I'm sorry, Nonny, I apologized. I'm scared that I'll never be a guy again, and what would be so terrible about that? She shot back. With your attitude towards women, I doubt any girl would lose sleep over the loss. Frankly, you weren't that good looking. I'll bet you were never much of a jock, probably didn't date that much, just fantasized about what a stud you were. How could I answer that? I thought to myself. Nonny had pretty much summed up my life without ever knowing me. I was a mediocre athlete, too short for basketball, too scrawny for football, and couldn't hit a baseball if someone held it for me. I didn't date that much, mostly because I couldn't find that many girls I thought were worthy of going out with me. I was exactly the guy Nonny had described. Well, Nonny asked impatiently. Well, what? I asked, hoping she wasn't asking me to confirm her profile of me. Well, was I right? She asked pointedly. Nonny's smile was gone. She stared at me as if trying to push me into the ground with her will. Once again, shooting off my mouth had cost me. First went my masculinity. Now the only friend I had in this mess was on the verge of leaving too. You're right, I said sadly. Forgive me, please. Do you think you can learn to keep your mouth shut? She asked. I promise to be good. Drop the macho crap. I'll be a good girl, I promise, I smiled, hoping to break down the wall that I had created between us. Okay, you're forgiven, she sighed, her warm smile returning. Now be good and get back in there and try on those other outfit. As I turned to go back to the dressing room, Nonny added, and don't forget, you're a good girl. Our little spat had shaken me up very much. I'd come to think the world of Nonny, and I didn't want to upset her. Who knows, maybe when this craziness is over, her and I can become more than the girlfriends we seem to be now. I did everything I could to be the good girl I promised Nonny I'd be. I tried on every outfit Nonny had chosen for me, then found a few more on my own. I wanted to try on some slacks so badly it hurt, but Nonny said it would be best to wait. She explained that first we'd have to do something about the unsightly bulge that would show before I could try some on. I nodded my head in agreement. I wasn't about to be seen with long curly hair, eyeshadow and lipstick, and a bulge where one shouldn't be. I wasn't sure what she had in mind, but I had no doubt that I'd trust her. We spent a little more time looking over some sexy party dresses, but I couldn't work up the desire to buy one for myself just then. Nonny told me she understood and that it would be best to just let nature take its course, saying that I'd find myself interested in that sort of thing soon enough. I thought about that for a little bit as we continued to shop. Nonny had mentioned several times now that I'd noticed changes in the way I thought about things, but we'd never really talked about it. I'd been taking female hormones for a week now, and it wouldn't be too much longer that I'd really need the bras I wore, so I decided to ask all the questions I was afraid to have answered. We strolled through the mall, stopping now and then to admire an outfit or two before stopping at the food court for a bite to eat. My voice was by then starting to sound like a bad Carol Channing imitation, so I let Nonny do the ordering for us, asking her to pick me up a double cheeseburger with the works and a supersized Pepsi. She came back with a smile, 2 small salads, and 2 small diet Pepsis. "Where's my cheeseburger?" Staring at the small salad that she had given me, I thought I knew what starvation was going to feel like. "I'm doing you a favor, Rosie," she laughed. "That burger and shake would end up on your hips and butt." "Some favor," I said, still staring at my salad. "Starvation or sex change?" "Actually, it's sort of starvation and sex change." Nonny giggled. "Think of this as one of the sacrifices women make to be beautiful. Can't I just be plain and eat what I want?" I whined. "I can't live on salads, and I hate diet anything." "Sorry, Rosie, but you'll thank me for this when you see how great you look in a size 9. I took small bites of salad hoping to make it last while sipping at my diet Pepsi. I never realized that girls ate this stuff because they had to. I always thought they enjoyed it. God, how I wanted to sink my teeth into a double quarter pounder, a large order of French fries, and a giant-sized Pepsi. I could almost taste the pickles and cheese on the burger, and the fries were hot, salty, and delicious. Nonny seemed to be able to read my mind. "You'll get used to it soon," she said with that smile that could light a stadium. "Remember, the hormones will cause one heck of a weight gain if you're not careful." "I'll live with the weight. Please get me a cheeseburger," I begged unashamed. "Remember," Nonny laughed. "Boys don't make passes at girls with fat asses. I'm starving, and you give me dumb poetry." I whimpered. "Not poetry, Rosie," Nonny sniggered. "Just one of the facts of life from a girl's viewpoint. This viewpoint you keep talking about, how is making me look like a girl supposed to help me understand it?" "I might look like a girl, but I can't make myself think like one," I asked as I took another small bite of my salad. "It's not changing your looks that will make the difference," Nonny sighed. "It's the hormones that are going to make a woman out of you, whether you want to be one or not. Once your hormone level has changed over to primarily female, your mind will follow." "What do you mean whether I like it or not?" I almost choked on a piece of lettuce. Nonny's voice expressed her amazement.